But this building was built, I think, 4 times, if you think about it. 3 times, as it is now, with models and the real building, and once in reverse, in the negative of the shuttering. All these walls were inside out when you built it, and then you filled them with concrete, like a negative of a photograph, and there was the building. I think one of the interesting coincidences that occurred was when Pat, influenced by the work of Le Corbusier, early Christian architecture, and what I was doing in the Celtic Studies area, caused a fusion there of ideas. It didn't happen by accident, it was part of that hunger, to satisfy that hunger for knowledge that we were aware of was happening and emerging in the 50s and 60s here.
I guess he's very good club players, but then never had an opportunity.
The first thing I did was survey the site. Remember, it was an old mill. Mm-hmm. The site was almost a circle, so it was a matter of scaling it to match. Once we got a scale on it with drawings, we then made another model. So it was built twice at that stage. John Verling, the artist, was my assistant during that model building. Believe it or not, having drawn them, modelled it, we drew it again as design drawings, and that then went to the engineers for the construction.
I think it's the only way you could have done it.
Yeah, but it was the only way actually you could explain it. Jerry Jarrett as well, because Jerry Jarrett couldn't read drawings or anything. So we showed him this model, and we said,
while he's at that now.
And we said, this
You'll already your time.
While he's at that now. There was very little drawings to read.
There was very little drawings.
We built the walls of the engineers' steel drawings.
But you had nothing else to work
I know.
with.
That's something there was you were a very small team here, there was only 2 carpenters. That was the one myself.
There's always an element. There always has to be an element of trust and respect for each other.
We depended on each other.
Yeah, no, you do.
I probably learned more about shuttering from Jerry than I would if I was at college for 50 years.
We were a team here. We were all around the same age, starting off with Nolan and O'Shea's.
Yeah.
There was no problem. There was no bickering. There was no old fella over in the workshop telling us to wait out thunder or do whatever.
Oh, yeah.
We were all afraid of all.
You were still above ground.
One big advantage here was very few builders could have built this at that time, only Nolan and O'Shea's with the workshop. Everything to do with the shuttering, we could order what we wanted. You went up to Dawn, they had the gear to do it. No other builder around here could have any chance of it because they had no workshop of that calibre at that time,
No, you're right. And he was a good father. But he wouldn't have got.
If you look at all the photographs here, there was no scaffolding. The scaffolding was built into the shuttering.
Oh, yeah.
So it was a part, but today it wouldn't be tolerated, but you had to keep total focus on what you were doing, because if you didn't, you were dead, because you would fall off what you were on. No, you couldn't put up a scaffolding and you couldn't fall off it. But
you don't have to carpet it down for fellas.
But at that time, you got so focused on your job, you know well that. Well, if I make a boo-boo here, I'm in trouble. We walked up along them That's how
We walk up down the whalers.
You walked off it. So the photographs are there to prove it. Like, all you need to look at them. And at that time, the workmanship with the gear that we had at that time, compared with today, like everybody have a battery drill and this drill and that drill and the other drill for doing every different thing. Like, whereas that time, you were down to nearly 3 things: a hammer, a tape, and maybe a saw that wasn't too sharp. Whether that in the pokers and the electric in the vibrators, it was only 5 meters or 4 meters, whatever. So we had to bring the
machine in you had.
So no wonder I nearly did. we had to bring the vibrators down into the shuttle, like.
I don't know whether I have the pronunciation right or not, but I think it was called béton brut in French for the rough. I don't know what the
It's brutalism, isn't it? That's
well, it's
the raw,
brutalism, but
that raw
it
concrete.
was raw concrete.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think.
Yeah.
We wanted
It looked
we
fine.
wanted the character of concrete to be showing. It wasn't a plaster wall; it was a concrete wall.
Yeah.
And that was literally a religion.
But that morning that we poured that,
Or
the one here,
That's straight
the
from
first pour. I was in very early in the morning and I said, Jesus, what's going to happen for the day? I went up to the church anyway and I said a few prayers.
The thing about here is the pour here in the morning started probably about 7 o'clock. It mightn't finish that night until maybe 9 o'clock.
And the crane was so slow, like,
Is
we
it-
used to time it, it used to take
Like
us
for the
3 minutes or
Them
four
crane, like with
minutes
the
or
trolley.
whatever to get
Yes,
from there
like the
to
trolley,
there.
like the trolley is so slow as
And
well
the
to
trolley
wind
was
out.
slow.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like so, like you look at any one of those walls, they can imagine how many concrete mixers there's stuff inside them, like, you know.
Yeah.
If you broke down, if you stopped for a couple of hours,
But that never
you'd
stopped.
have to see a line.
But it never,
Yeah, you would of course, yeah.
It never stopped because
And you'd even if you filled up one side so much, and it had to be filled.
it's the same as painting. It's the same as painting a ceiling. If you
Yeah,
stop
that-
halfway across
it
and
had
go
to
through
be-
it and come back and
Yeah.
join it one
Yeah.
more.
to me, that's the one thing I look at and I said, how straight things were done at that time and that they held and they were poured the concrete like when you're pouring concrete, if something moves a half inch, there is no going back. And at any point from the roadside, come down the church or any arras, even the arras overhead there, every one of them are perfectly straight. And that's what I look at and I say that it is as good as we could ever have done it at that time.
It's interesting, when you're on about pouring the roof. Again, the engineering drawings sort of reveal that sort of first pour, second pour, insulation,
Yeah, sure.
third pour, fourth pour, and it really is a complex jigsaw.
Well, not really.
It's probably simple once you understand it.
You built the cages for the beams. You tied
There's a huge
the
cantilever
bars
actually.
of the slab, of the under slab, went through the beam. That was the under slab was poured in, right? We had 22-inch
That's right. Polystyrene blocks.
polystyrene blocks. They had to be cut with a chainsaw, and the granules were blowing down the street like they're snowing.
Oh, I can imagine, yeah.
Off the chainsaw.
I came back down and I was looking. There was an extension being built onto the convent, and there was a newsletter, the parish newsletter, and one Sunday it read, the extension to the convent is going up fast, and the Bantry Library is still going down.
But a lot of things changed after that in Bantry. You look at it, before that, it was the only houses that were built in Bantry were slipped on by Bob and or any amount.
Well, that was due to Whitty.
Since way back in time, and then
There was the
you had hundreds of houses built in up in Green Road East.
Yeah.
Just straight after that, like
We went up there straight after
after this,
library.
like so.
Yeah.
It from there on, then
Yeah.
things.
Things picked up a lot.
Very quiet in the early 60s. I remember
Oh, yeah.
being down in Muffin O'Connor's as a joiner down there, and but there was very little being done,
One word also that could have applied to Bantry back then, because of Whitty and other things happening in the area at the time, was optimism. At that time, there was a developing hunger for knowledge in this country. All of that is part of that evolution and change since the revolution in Ireland. And what we're getting now here in Bantry Library is almost a statement expressing that change and that coincidence of cultural emergence that happened.
For my first project, really big project, it will always be the one building that I will always go back and think about.
And you know, if you were a stranger, you'd nearly drive up to have a look at it, wouldn't you?
It attracts your attention.
You know?
Yeah, you would, yeah.
You say, what's that?
You know,
Yeah.
and that mystique, that thing that it isn't just a square block of a building with glass walls in it that
Yeah.
people put books in, you know?
Yeah.
And that sort of ancient Irish root is here.
Yeah.
And we're proud of that.